Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2020 Local Systems Spring Meeting Update for DOCEXPRESS and Appia. My name is Nikki Stinn. I am the Secondary Roads Engineer with the Local Systems Bureau at the DOT. We are going to first start with our DOCEXPRESS updates. First, the most important reminder for DOCEXPRESS is that the naming conventions must be used, and you can find the file with the naming conventions down there at the link shown in that bottom bullet. So I do want to tell you, if you need additional language in the file name, which is why I often think that the naming conventions may not get followed, you can add additional language or additional characters into that file name, but you must follow the base naming convention first. So if you want to add some more descriptive language after the base name, you can do so. So for a tied contract, for example, if you have two different projects on it, we'll say parent 98 and 99, and you need to submit pay vouchers for each of those projects. The base naming convention tells you to have the name of voucher and then the 3-digit number, but you're going to have two of those, right? If you have two projects, you can designate between them. You simply need to use the base naming convention first, and then at the end you can tack on additional characters. So you could put those parent numbers or a road name like D46 or whatever you want to at the end after that base naming convention. So hopefully that helps everybody follow that a little better and still allows you to name something that you can tell what it is. So the reason that the naming convention must be used is that the DOT systems that catalog and retain these files can't recognize incorrect file names and therefore can't retain those files. So imagine if you took a bunch of papers and just dumped them into a big cardboard box and then wanted to find the one paper you were looking for. It would be very difficult to sort through all of that. It's the same thing for these DOCEXPRESS files. When the DOT tries to archive them, the system has to recognize exact file names so that it can put them where they need to go in the correct place to be able to find them later. If they're not named correctly, it becomes a big jumble that is hard to sort through and takes a lot of time. So please do use those naming conventions. We have updated IM 6.000 to reflect that the naming convention use is required. And you can see that highlighted in green in the image at the bottom of the slide. So again, naming conventions must be used. Along with that, there has been a naming convention change for payrolls. The new naming convention is PR, which stands for payroll, space, NNN. N is that sequential number that each subcontractor has, space, WE, which stands for weekend, space, YYMMDD, which is 2-digit year, 2-digit month, and 2-digit day. Please note that those spaces are required as part of that base naming convention, as well as that 3-digit sequential number. So even if you only have 5 subcontractors that are numbered, they need to be 001, 002, etc. So, side note, subcontractor payrolls are only going to be required on projects on which payrolls are required in general. So more of those projects with Davis-Bacon wages. So if you are not required to review payrolls for a particular project, you probably don't need to worry about this. If a subcontractor is added after the contract has been let, after the project has been let, you need to let Tammy Bill know so she can add them to the list so that there is an appropriate place in DOCEXPRESS for each subcontractor's payrolls. If they're added and Tammy doesn't know about it, there won't be a place for them to put their payrolls, and then it becomes very jumbled. So a new thing that we have, relatively new as of December, is the ability for a board of supervisors of a county or a city council to designate the signature authority for a contract. So you can see IM 5.030 for more information on this, and there's a screenshot of the language in it down at the bottom right. This allows that board or city council to designate a full-time employee of a respective agency. We've had the question, can a county administer a bridge project, say for a city, and can that county engineer be designated to sign the contract on behalf of the city? The answer is no. The designated person has to be an employee of the contracting authority agency. So again, full-time employee of the respective agency. If the agency does not have any full-time employees, as the small cities might not, a mayor or city clerk can be designated. No consultants will be allowed to be designated for the signature authority, and it must be the person designated can only be designated in a project-specific resolution. We've had the question several times, can my board just pass a resolution at the beginning of the year for me to sign all of the contracts? No, unfortunately not. Again, it has to be project-specific. Now, this can be in the same resolution as the one that a board or council does to award a project. That's fine to have the language for the award and the signature designation in there, but it does have to be project specific. We do have a sample resolution in IM 5.030 attachment C, and a GovDelivery email was sent out about this on December 4th of 2019. Those local systems mailings, as always, can be found on our website. Now, if a signature designation resolution is uploaded to DOCEXPRESS, and you don't have to, but if you want to keep all of your records in one place, you can, but you must put it in the agreements and resolutions drawer. Do not, under any circumstances, put it in the contract drawer or add it as a supporting document to the contract. When you do that, it invalidates the legality of the entire contract. It will cause the contract, anything put into the contract drawer that's not supposed to be there, including this resolution, will cause the need for the whole contract and bond to be deleted, for the contractor to go find a new bond number to get reassigned, get that new bond number, re-upload the bond, re-sign the contract, and retransition everything. It is a mess to have to do that, so please do not put it in the contract drawer or attach it as a supporting document to the contract. Use that agreements and resolutions drawer. So, fun fact, since we've implemented the digital contract signing, the fastest contract has been signed in 8 hours. That's within 8 hours of it being available for signature. Most contracts are signed within 20 days, and almost all of them are signed in less than 30 days. If you remember the way it was before, it took usually 30 days was the norm, if not more. Maybe if you were real quick, it could be within 20 days. But we are significantly taking less time than we used to, even if there has been a learning curve to go with it. So we'll now move on to our Appia updates. Trainings. We have completed 8 trainings this year. 4 of them have been in person, and 4 of them, unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 situation, have been via Skype. Those have also had a learning curve of their own, but I think we've got it down to a pretty workable solution now. We have trained through those 8 trainings approximately 200 attendees, which we think is fairly good. If you are in need of training still and were not able to attend one of those trainings, please reach out and let me know. I have a list going, and when we generate enough interest in another training, I will certainly have one, whether that has to be online or more preferably in person, or we can have a few across the state too if needed. So the training format or agenda that we follow for these 3-hour trainings is First, we'll go over a PowerPoint overview of Appia's functions and capabilities and just what it is and what it does. And then we go through an online live demonstration of Appia's website where I show you how to use the program to do everything from creating a contract and setting it up to entering daily reports to generating vouchers and working day reports and change orders and just all those details that you need to know how to do to use the program to administer a project. And once we're done with the live demonstration, we do a hands-on walkthrough by trainees during the training so that you can actually get in there. You're given a demo account to go into, and you get to play with a project and put in all those reports and generate those things so that you get a feel for how to do it. And I'm there to answer questions as we go. So if you run into snags, it's not like you've been sent home and then have to try to struggle through it on your own, although it's really not that hard. But I'm there to answer questions. So I highly encourage attending a training if you haven't already. We do require you to take a training before we activate your access to Appia, which is a good lead in to our next slide here. How do I access DocX and Appia? How do I activate my account? All counties have access to DOCEXPRESS already. A lot of cities do, but not all of them do because they don't have projects quite as often. So if you don't have access to either DOCEXPRESS or Appia, for sure contact Tammy Bell. But if you do have access to DOCEXPRESS and not Appia, contact Tammy as well, and we'll cover that on the next slide. As a reminder, both programs are Infotech programs and they're accessed from the same login. So you just have to have one account with access activated to each of the different components. If I have a DOCEXPRESS account, but I don't seem to have access to Appia, how do I get access to Appia? Well, first of all, you can kind of tell when you switch to Appia in your account if there's anything on the screen. If it's completely blank and it just feels like you can't do anything, there's no users, there's no anything, you probably don't have your account activated yet. If you see users, if you see the My Projects button, if it feels like you can do something, then you probably do have your account activated. If you do not, contact Tammy Bell. She will send a request to Infotech to activate your account, and she will put them in touch with you to get all of your reference data. And I'll talk about what reference data is later in the presentation. But that's really important to get all that stuff into your account and get it activated before you try putting in any projects. If you toggle to Appia and nothing shows up, contact Tammy to activate your account. Once it is active, anyone with administrator or senior program manager level permissions can give access to any other users that have an Infotech account. So if they have DOCEXPRESS access, they are already in the Infotech system, and you simply go to add users and add them to your Appia account. So to do that, you can follow those directions on the screen there. So sharing between programs and DOCEXPRESS. The way this works is you will create documents in Appia, whether they be change orders, weekly reports, payment vouchers, any other type of document. You will create those in Appia. Then you download them from Appia and upload them into DOCEXPRESS. Unfortunately, there is no way to directly move a document from Appia to DOCEXPRESS just by hitting a button. I wish there were. We will give that feedback to Infotech, but they are two completely distinct programs. So for now, the process is create a document in Appia, simply download it to your computer, and then upload it into DOCEXPRESS. You can add links within Appia that will take you right to a DOCEXPRESS folder, but it's just a hyperlink. It just jumps you from one location to the other. It doesn't transmit files. So a few instructions and helpful resources for Appia. There are several YouTube tutorials. These are created by Infotech. They mostly focus on the project creation within Infotech, but they're very, very good short videos that show you how to do tasks. There is one on daily reports as well once you've got that project advanced to construction. Those are extremely helpful. Within just half hour of watching those, I was able to do quite a lot in Appia. Coming soon are step-by-step picture instructions, so screenshots for project setup and other tasks. So I am working on assembling instructions for everybody in a very, very step-by-step broken down manner to show you how to do a lot of the things that we need to do in Appia. So we'll send out a notification, I'm sure, when those are ready. I'm also working on assembling videos of our trainings that we've done for people and will continue to do so that those can be accessed as well if you need a refresher of that training. We also have resources already up on the local systems website. We have the user's guide, funding overview guide, inspector flash guides. These are just kind of little, the flash guides are 1-page or 2-page short information blurbs about how to do or how to understand specific topics. There is information on the reference data worksheets and worksheet calculations, and those can all be accessed there at our local systems website shown below the picture. So most people are really wanting to know what's the status of being able to make payments through Appia and DOCEXPRESS. So right now, we are in the process of piloting 6 projects, or soon to be going through 6 projects that span over 3 counties and range from easy projects to fairly complex projects. So we're covering the gamut. The way the payment process is working so far is that vouchers are generated in Appia, again, downloaded, and then uploaded to DOCEXPRESS. And when they are uploaded to DOCEXPRESS, that automatically sends the Finance Bureau a notification that a voucher is there and ready for them. They simply download that voucher to their computer, and then they key in the quantities for payment. We have put right now just 1 payment through. There is actually another one being submitted today. So that process is soon to be tested further, and then we have another few of our pilot projects that payments will be going through very soon. So we're really ramping up in this payment pilot project process. A lot of P's. So one of the glitches that we did hit in the first payment that went through was lump sum items. Finance pays those items with essentially the lump sum and unit price values switched. And so we have to work through that. Once we get up and rolling past the pilot projects, I will be giving everybody instructions on how to adjust for those lump sum items for a while until we get a new system in place. So just stay tuned for directions on how to do that once we do have everybody on a mass scale submitting payments through Appia and DOCEXPRESS. Next, I'll talk about some of our recent challenges faced. The first one is the development of our easy button. Our plan, and what we're getting very close to, is to get a file that has all of your contract information in it that we can place into DOCEXPRESS for you. You can then take that file out of DOCEXPRESS and import it straight into Appia, and that will essentially set up everything in your project. So it's about a 5-minute process to use that setup file to just create your project in Appia. We're not quite there yet. We're very close. Right now, we're using a hybrid process of kind of half manual and half automated. The automated portion of that is the CSV file that I can get for you, and we'll talk about those on the next slide. But it is a file with all of the bid items and bid item information like unit prices and such that you can upload to Appia, and that will populate all of that information so you don't have to enter bid items or anything line by line. The only parts you have to do manually are the non-bid item contract information pieces, like the contractor, like your working days and the type of work, etc. And that process really isn't hard either. You can do that in about 15 minutes. So our next challenge that we faced is providing constantly up-to-date reference data for the locals. And this reference data includes all of the bid items, which can be updated monthly by the Contracts Bureau, all of those materials associated with the bid items, contractors, work types, change order types, just those general background data lists that Appia needs to put your information in when you try to manipulate or administer a contract. So we are working on a way to keep that data up to date so that when you do create a new contract in Appia, we can put that up-to-date reference information either with your contract information or somewhere else so that you can get it at the same time and refresh your reference data when you create a new project in Appia. So another challenge faced is that we are figuring out how to and have figured out how to define sections for tied projects with multiple funding sources. So for instance, you may have a paving contract that has a locally funded project tied with an FM or an STBG project component. And we need to be able to divide those different funding sources into different sections so that when we get to the point where finance is paying projects for us, that they can identify which sections need to be paid with funding that runs through the DOT. We are also trying to work through the logistics of auditing and records retention. So things like summaries of quantities of bid items. We're trying to decide, is that okay just to leave in Appia and view with read-only, or do we need to download those reports and put them in DOCEXPRESS for permanent retention? Internally, again, we're working through some of those needs, and we'll let everybody know as we figure out what reports need to go where. Another challenge is just in general the desire to customize reports and data entry fields in Appia. It is a product that's developed for many customers, not just us. So there are often things that we wish we could tweak, and we are working with Infotech to make all of those changes that we can, but it is a slow process because they have to evaluate it on behalf of all of their customers, not just us. Another challenge that we're facing is the designation of some counties as field manager counties. So about 20 counties use the field manager program to submit payments and to document their projects. If you are a field manager county, Contracts Bureau will automatically assume that your contract is going to go into field manager unless you tell us otherwise before the letting. So if you don't tell us that you want to use Appia rather than field manager and you're on the list of field manager counties, you will automatically be put into field manager, and that is not a reversible process. So please be aware of that. Another challenge we faced is automating the payments. We talked about that on the previous slide. And our last challenge is just entering lump sum items. When finance gets payment vouchers, as counties are aware, they're 309 vouchers for lump sum items, you have to pay a dollar amount rather than a portion of the 1 unit lump sum. So essentially the lump sum units are switched with the unit price on those 309 vouchers. We have figured out a process to work through that, but when we do start getting into full implementation of automated payments, I will need to work with each county to assist you in knowing what changes to make sure those lump sum items are paid correctly. So when we get there, I will be in touch with you about that. So other important information, you can contact me for the CSV setup files. Again, those are used for importing contract bid information. They are not available until at least 45 days after the letting. That's because they come out in a batch process for all projects in a letting, and those can't be published. They're the bid tabulations. They can't be published until contracts has received word back on all of the projects that were in the letting. So those are not available until 45 days after the letting. Again, we are working on the easy button solution, and that should provide a file faster than that 45 days, but right now that's where we're at. So if you have any questions, again, contact us. Tammy is the more appropriate contact for account and user access issues for either DOCEXPRESS or Appia. I would be the probably more appropriate contact for anything dealing with how to actually manipulate a project in Appia or to implement it or create it. Anticipated date required for the use of Appia for the counties is the October 2020 letting. We hope to, by that time, have our easy button figured out, as well as the automated payments through finance. Also, for the cities, it will be 6 months after the counties for implementation of required use of Appia. If you have any questions, please contact Tammy or myself at the information shown below. And otherwise, we hope you have a good experience with Appia and DOCEXPRESS, and feel free to reach out to us at any time.